Welcome to the Healers Cafe, the number one show for medical practitioners and holistic healers to have heart to heart conversations about their day to day lives while sharing their expertise for improving your health and wellness. Welcome to the Healers Cafe. And today I have with me Dr. Marianne Pinkston. She's an MD and an integrative medicine family practice physician in San Antonio, Texas, for over 25 years. Now, I don't know where to start between women's health, your own history of having been 300 pounds and losing weight and looking fantastic, and then everything else you've written here. I think what we'll do is I like to start by your own story, and then yeah, and what have you come up against? What yeah, let's go there.
Thank you. That's perfectly fine, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you for allowing me to be on. Yes, I have been practicing almost 30 years now, and started out as a family practitioner, board certified with, the traditional allopathic medicine. I went to a fantastic school and residency, learned much, but of course, like every other, most physicians, was left out of the root cause, I guess, of medicine, right?
Yes.
Complex disease and root cause medicine, practiced for probably about maybe 4 to 6 years before I became sick. I developed rheumatoid arthritis, some autoimmune issues, and there was also a lovely pharmacy in town that, a compounding pharmacy that I think saw some hope in me for, more integrative style medicine. So the light bulb went off. I think everybody in integrative medicine has that light bulb moment where, something goes off and you think, we're really not doing something totally correct here. Not that allopathic medicine and contemporary medicine it's not all bad, of course, but there's more to the story
Right.
and more to learn. So yes, with all of those, that illness and those stressors and things, I ballooned to 300 pounds. I will admit to, eating disorder of sorts, eating out of stress, binge eating, things like that. And craving carbs and getting into all the things that stressors do to you, and gained up, developed cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, all of those issues. At the time, I was opening the med spa craze wasn't a craze at the moment, and I was
Right.
just one of two med spas that opened in San Antonio initially. And, I'm sitting in front of patients talking about weight loss and getting healthy and longevity. And here I am, 300 pounds. I just didn't feel like I was really staying true to my,
Mhm.
to my practice, as well as in front of my children.
Yeah.
So I made some decisions after 13 years of bouncing back and forth with my weight. I made some decisions and took on that as a life project, and also to work on mindset and stress and things like that.
Mhm.
Mainly to give back to my patients what if I can learn and do it, then you can too, and
Right.
practice what I preach. My training now, I'm in a fellowship with the American Academy of Anti-Aging and Regenerative Medicine, also called A4M. And it is going to board certify now in longevity medicine, or anti-aging and longevity medicine. I'm very happy about that. I never want to stop learning. This is
Good.
30 years into a career, and I'm still enjoying my learning
Yeah.
and expanding my education in integrative medicine. I guess that's probably the short story
Mhm.
there for you.
Well, yeah, well, let's go into I mean, well-meaning people want to lose weight if they're, especially if you're like a model to other people of where do you start with the millions of theories of, I mean, there's things that we know are wrong, like just wrong, that have been accepted or have been showed in advertising, like margarine, and we know who gets paid and whatever. But but there's a lot of subtleties of things that are not so clear if it's wrong or right, or we can say, oh, it's individual, but let go into that. Let's talk a little
Yeah.
bit.
Okay. taken a lot of time to really think about this because it is such a deep question for society now. I mean, we are what I think the latest figures are 93% metabolically unhealthy, right? And that
Yep.
includes insulin resistance all the way to diabetes and cholesterol issues and all. And so, the obesity epidemic now is reaching half our population, if not more. So, we're all asking that question. And so, having been through it, I do feel like I have a little bit of a different view. And I know my patients are susceptible to the billion-dollar industry of diets, quick fixes, the latest new drug we're using or the latest new supplement. Even something to a probiotic might change your life, or
Mm.
yeah, we'll use berberine now, we'll use the GLPs or whatever it is. It's always something that is a quick fix for more instant gratification. The
Mm.
other piece of the puzzle, too, I think, is the lack of support, honestly. Each decade and each couple of years, we come up with a new diet, a new trend, a new fad. I think now it's like fiber maxing or things like that. And I think what we've forgotten is that there is a process. Our bodies know what to do if we treat it right and feed it
Mhm.
right and do those right things. But where do you learn to do
Right.
the
Mhm.
right things? Because that industry is taking us so far off of our course. So, I think the thing that I finally learned, because I was just as susceptible to the industry, when you're desperate, when you want to be healthy, when you want to be,
Yep.
thin, appropriate weight or whatnot, however you view it, that desperation is there, and you start to listen to things that really coax you in and coax your wallet out. And so I fell to that too. And I think at some point I just learned that there is a process. You first have to make a decision. You really on the inside of yourself just need to make a decision that you want a better life for you or your family or mostly for you. And once you make that decision, find support and find people who do know what they're talking about. Now, how easy is that? It's not because everybody online has an opinion. Everybody's got a
Mhm.
certification or an opinion, and so how do you find that? And that's I think that's where the problem starts right there is finding people who really know and understand. But just I kind of make the joke too sometimes that I had to kill another person inside in order to learn that I needed a lot of help and I needed to see the challenges that my own perception and my own ideas of I just want it quick or the instant gratification or my lack of knowledge or whatnot. Those deficits were there. I needed a lot of support and a lot of help, and instead of just ordering something in the middle of the night because I think, oh, I'll take the next month or two, take it, that'll change everything. I'll be fine, or that next diet or whatnot. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but that is how I think I found a little bit different path.
Yeah, I mean it answers it somewhat, but I'm going to be a little more picky.
That's fine.
Because, well-meaning people
Yes.
will be there for coaching.
Yeah.
Big groups of people, whether it's, I'm terrible with names, Weight Watchers, that
What
people
watchers? Sure.
say,
Mhm.
meanwhile they're eating Jello and whatever,
Thank you.
you
Thank you.
know,
Yeah.
and it's like, whoa. But people say, well, I just stuck with it and it worked for me. Maybe I didn't follow them up 20 years later,
Right.
but,
Very true. Yeah.
and then it's like, well, you just do, vegan or just do vegetarian or just go carnivore or just do lamb and rice because that seems to work. And, like,
Right.
and
Right.
it's
You're
like,
right. You're right.
so who, and, I'm of the belief that inside the patient knows what's right, but with experience, like not, otherwise they're guessing, right? They have to try what works for them.
Absolutely.
But then how long do you wait to see what works? Like, how do you
Good
get
question.
to this?
Yeah,
How
good
do
question.
you, yeah.
Yeah, no, good question. And I think you're right. I think we stop listening to ourselves, and I think our medical providers have stopped listening to us as well, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I think it's a very personalized road. There's not just one answer that this diet worked for me, and within a couple months I was good, right? This took
Mhm.
me years, and it was creating, first of all, I think I just learned that my body has inside maybe not what it needs, but it knows what to do. If I
Right.
will just, feed it correctly and whatnot. And I think some of the trends for, the different diets, vegan or carnivore or things like that can work for people, usually on more of a temporary basis. Maybe it can kind of get you jump started. And once you get a good jump start, then you see the future. You see that my body is going to respond here and I'm going to lose some. But what do you do? Eventually, whatever you try will usually stop working, and you
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of have
exactly.
to, right? You kind of have to switch tools.
Yeah.
And so I think the longevity of it was just, if I know that I'm getting the right nutrition, so magnesium and the right vitamins, the fat soluble vitamins, the non, and making sure that I'm getting the basics. We know that fiber is good for us. We know that, we
Mhm.
know that things that are like carbohydrates are good for you, but as long as they're non-refined, or
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
long as you're staying on the perimeter of the store and eating the leafy greens and the fresh meats and all, looking at things around you, like, are you getting in a lot of toxins? Are you,
Right.
you're right?
But I had jumped ahead to real food.
Sure. And
Yeah.
that's
And
ultimately the
and
best
it
thing.
is, it is. But even in real food,
Yes.
and because I wasn't talking about, you know, whatever, all the central aisles and all the
No,
extra
no, of
garbage, right?
course, of
But
course, of course.
even when you do the outside, right? Like, what are you likely deficient in that a test would pick up? Because most of the medical tests don't pick up
Absolutely.
really
Absolutely.
what's
This is
going
true.
on, right?
Yeah,
So where do you go from there?
good question. And
And then
so,
exercise. I was going to say exercise or
oh, yeah.
stretching, or where does all that fit in for you?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we do know that we have this basic deficiencies because our soil, the soil that our food is grown in now
Yeah.
is highly deficient. It's also full of pesticides and things like that, and then microplastics and all those things. And so, again, just staying local, looking for good sources local. Something that's interesting that people don't realize is organic is a purchased label. So they
Mm-hmm.
only have to meet 70% criteria in order to put that label on. And so people, will go to the organic section and buy organic thinking they're doing really well, when the local farmer can't really afford the labeling, grows organically, and it all
Yeah.
goes into the regular produce aisle. So they make it confusing, and it's
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
stay. Yeah. So I think it's just a lot of keeping your mind open and listening and be discerning about, where you're picking things from, and don't just fall for the packaging and all the beautiful words, natural, organic, all those things on the packaging,
Yeah.
and go back to the farm, and go back to the basics. So I think that's kind of where I found solace there, to try to change things up, because we can change our diet. What does that mean? Changing your diet. And that took a very long, I didn't learn that in medical school. It took a very
Mhm.
long time, to learn what works there. And as far as the exercise is concerned, that played a huge role. Sometimes you have to feel better in order to start a
Mhm.
great exercise
Of
program.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, I was very sick,
Yeah.
and I exercised when I was young, but I couldn't muster it. And so, I paid attention to things like my thyroid, my stressors and sleep, my to do natural hormone replacement, and
Mm.
things that I needed. Because again, what you're saying with the laboratories and all, we don't do a lot of testing for micronutrition. So it's
Right.
hard to test for magnesium. It's hard to test for, all the nutrients. It's expensive. Insurance doesn't cover it. Most people rely on insurance. And so that makes it difficult. I tell people just assume you're deficient and,
Yeah.
don't
That's
overdo it.
right.
Just assume you're deficient and go from there. But yeah, but you can test for things like your cortisol levels
Mhm.
and
Sure.
your thyroid is in free T3 levels and where your hormones are and things like that and find those things too. So there's just many pieces of the puzzle. It's not just one thing. And it takes an incredible amount of energy and
Mhm.
time to learn and see this. And even for me now, having been through it, to explain that, it takes an incredible amount of time for people to have that light bulb go off, so to speak, and understand that you start at the beginning and just make some little changes, but be consistent and
Right.
stay with it. This is not a diet we're going to do for a couple of months. It's not a drug we're going to take for a couple of months. This is something sustainable, lifelong. We've got to make that incredible lifestyle change. With the exercise, when I finally felt better, I got a few things straightened out. And I didn't start out going to the gym 6 times a week. I did it, outside and just walked the block a couple of times a week. 300 pounds, I was very sick and rheumatoid arthritis and all. So I
Yeah.
walked the
Totally.
block a couple of times a week and then slowly built. I do think that resistance, training is definitely, a very, very important piece that we've learned now recently for building muscle and longevity. So, all of these things were just learned in stages,
Mhm.
but just be persistent and
Right. Right.
with it. Ah,
And have you found in your own journey there was like, I know for me, a vitamin D, which I thought I had, was massive. I like, and I tried to get a test done here and they said, "Oh no, you'll have enough vitamin D." It's
mm.
like, no, no, I live in a dark country here.
Sure. Yeah,
Like,
more than
yeah. But you go to Mexico and yeah, but that's not how it works, right? And it's like anyway, but that made such a difference to how my muscles felt.
absolutely, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then when your muscles work, then climbing stairs and going outside and because I also have put on weight that I have no idea because I only eat really healthy.
What would your life be like if you were pain free? If you were one of the millions who suffer from chronic pain, the thought of just one day without it may seem impossible. This is often because conventional medicine tends to fall short in the treatment of pain, opting to prescribe pills or recommend surgery rather than getting to the root cause of the problem. But if you are suffering with emotional or physical pain, there is hope. Join the founder and CEO of Bowen College, Manon Bolliger, live online for your body-mind reboot. Learn how to listen to your symptoms and get to the root cause of your pain. Plus, be trained in basic Bowen therapy moves so that you can reboot your body for optimal health. You don't have to live in pain. You can heal. Stop the pain pill cycle by visiting www.yourbodymindreboot.com to learn more and to register.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's the movement was difficult without
Absolutely.
the vitamin D. And then I went to Mexico and I had a complete hormone panel, complete, because they'll actually do that. Whereas here it's like you can get it done, but they have to agree and justify
Exactly.
everything they're doing. And it's like, gosh, do I have to explain to you why? Like you
Right.
should know this. It's like I know, but
Absolutely.
it's not
Oh,
really. Doctors just give up because they're told what to do.
this
In
is
some
true.
ways, it's very challenging here, and naturopaths are in no better position, right? Because they're fighting
Right.
with getting rights into labs, and we got them, but then you have to fight anyway. So it's a mess. But
It is nice. And
once
it's
you
safe.
know, mhm.
I'm
Once you know it, like for me, that made a big difference.
yeah,
I'm still on my journey, because I used to be nice and svelte and thin and agile, and it's like, no, I don't
right.
want to move now. It's too hard, and so, um, and it's like, and I don't want to be doing my I'm in my 60s, I'm just
Oh,
like, okay,
wow. You
come on,
don't look,
girl.
oh my.
But I know how important it is,
Yeah.
but it's so like that was so pivotal,
Right, right. And
you
speaking
know?
of vitamin D,
Mhm.
incredibly important. And another, yeah, something I definitely left out that you bring to great light. And vitamin D is interesting because we used to really not have any deficiencies like most of our, minerals and vitamins. But the problem is K2, part of
Right.
right? And part of our ability to take vitamin D from the sun and convert it and do all the body's work with it requires different cofactors and other vitamins. And K2 is something we don't make, but again, it's no longer in our soil. And
Right.
so that is where an incredible amount of deficiencies came from. And
Hmm.
so now we have to take the D3, but we take it with the K2. And that
Yeah.
is where, right, it makes a difference. But vitamin D is so important for making your brain chemistry. So making serotonin, which helps to decrease our cravings,
Mhm.
helps us to feel more energetic and getting out and exercising and or being social or
Mhm.
whatever it is and all those things. And vitamin D is definitely part of what our muscles and bones need in order to, feel well. It's like a hormone almost. It
Mhm.
is really, it has that action. So it's incredibly important. And it's all of those things. It's not just one, it's all of those
No,
things, right?
exactly. But what have you found too? Because you also work with women in, menopause, I think perimenopause, and what are the things that like you go, wow, that, and it's again individual. I'm not asking for prescriptions for the public here. It's more like, for me, this was such a shocker. I talked about it to everybody.
Yeah,
Uh, but have you seen other things that people tend to forget? It's just not something, you check your thyroid. And again, here you have to ask for T3, T4, otherwise
absolutely
they'll
same.
tell you it's all fine, and meanwhile you're going downhill.
Absolutely. You're
Yeah.
right. And it's the same here too. We
Mm.
have to, if it's not in the insurance coverage or if it's not in
Right.
the corporate algorithm, then people are starting to ask for things outside, but they
Yeah.
won't do them because they're not allowed to, treat something off of that algorithm when you're
Exactly.
employed, right? And I have a solo practice. I'm not employed by anyone. And so I have a little more freedom, and that's where my learning came in. And so on the hormone aspect, incredibly important. And again, we're talking about natural.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
write synthetic
Of
and
course. Yeah.
talking about natural and made from a plant, made from a potato, the yam,
Mhm.
and just reaching a natural balance. We're not talking about over treating and giving more than's necessary. We're talking about the right amount, and that's individualized. And so
Mhm.
what people don't understand is when you go through menopause and lose your estrogen, which you lose overnight, basically, your risk of heart disease for women and heart disease go
Mhm.
equal to that of an 80-year-old man
Yeah.
overnight. So the part of that is it's important for fighting insulin resistance,
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
making muscle, making sure things like vitamin D and your vitamins are used correctly. All of those things are important. Keeping your muscle. So testosterone, of course, is yes, women need testosterone, not much, but they need some. And because as soon as you go through reach your late 20s, you begin to lose 10% of your muscle mass every decade.
Right.
And therefore you're becoming weaker, and then the really you feel like you can't exercise and gain and make any gains and all. So those things are important. I do agree with you so much on thyroid. Now, what people don't understand is that some of the nutritional deficiencies in the soil, like selenium
Mhm.
and the B vitamins, the correct B vitamins and things like that, that aren't there are important for your body to convert and manufacture the right type of thyroid than cortisol. So stress, this is the big one, right?
Right.
And I
Mhm.
think this is where a lot of people go wrong in our channels of gaining weight and that getting so out of control because once your cortisol system and your stress system is in control and in demand, you don't sleep well, you don't convert your thyroid, you don't have all those body processes that keep you in check and keep your
Mhm.
body going. So it's a multitude. It's just
Yeah.
so many things. And that's what blew my mind. I'm like, I'll go on a diet and start walking and it'll come right off. When I was 20, that worked, right? But I started my weight loss journey when I was 47 and going through
Mhm.
menopause. And
Mhm.
so that shocks people because it's like, well, you're supposed to not be able to lose weight or, gain all your weight around menopause. I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way, but you just have to know know what you need and where you're
Right.
going. And find the right people who can support and help you through that. It's difficult.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we didn't talk about adrenals, but that's all interrelated. And
Yes.
also with a lot of the poisons, it's often I found that if you help the adrenals, the thyroid is actually okay.
Absolutely. This is
Yeah.
absolutely. I have
Mhm.
so many people I will start on thyroid medication because they're just so deficient and just so sick and feel so horrible. We'll start a natural version of it that has the T3 in it and it helps boost them. But at some point, again, it's root cause. We've got to
Yeah.
get the right nutrients and to those stressors and sleep. With the adrenals being way up on that list, most people can come off thyroid then
Yeah.
and not have to take something. And
Right.
so
Right.
to your point, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And what have you had much experience or noticing like omega 3s?
Oh yeah.
Just yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Right.
Omega
Mhm.
3s are really misunderstood. I think one thing that's so important is that they give the cell wall. We're made up of
Mhm.
billions of cells and our cell wall is what allows things in and out and especially toxins. And so when you use omega 3s, for instance, that builds the cell wall and allows for a good, structure and support
Got a
to
membrane.
prevent.
Yeah.
Right. And so just one of the many things. It's great anti-inflammatory. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, yeah, it's very
Mhm.
misunderstood,
Mhm.
underrated.
So, what else can you like that? Possibly that is controversial in the sense that people don't think about it. Like, I'm just trying to share as much that, yeah, isn't necessarily
Yeah.
shared.
Yeah. Well, two things I can think of. One
Mhm.
is the toxins in the environment that are like the
Yeah.
microplastics and things like our fabric softeners, our candles,
Right.
plastic water bottles, and it creates an estrogen issue in men and women. Now, estrogen gets demonized and it's unfair, but I say the wrong type and the wrong amount of
Mhm.
anything is not good. And
Yeah.
so the wrong type of estrogen, the wrong type of, and the higher amounts tend to cause detoxing issues in our body, which knocks off our own hormone production, which
Mhm.
leads to insulin resistance and obesity and not making our hormones. And you can see the cascade and the domino
Yeah.
of that,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
estrogen dominance is what I call it, and it is incredibly important. And I think the other thing too is then, of course, the use of the peptides. And so I try not to say the big three letters, GLP,
Mhm.
because that usually tags you on social media or
Yeah.
YouTube and whatnot. But the use of the peptides in the shots are very, very controversial. Now, again, going back to weight loss and whatnot, it takes a lot of tools. So you have to go to different tools. Each person is different. At 300 pounds, I felt when I was finally felt like I was educated enough to take on weight loss on my own. I needed some of those things to get me jump started, but I didn't
Mhm.
rely on it as a fix. It's not a
Right.
fix. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
something to just assist and touch. And it needs to be done with supervision and with the right amounts of, because people have really harmed themselves now doing
Mhm,
it on their own. And all these companies that just give you a prescription, you take a checklist and they send you a prescription and give no coaching. And so, that's another huge controversial area
mhm.
that needs to be addressed so that people understand there's many things out there, controversial, sure. Sometimes it's pharmaceutical, sometimes it's natural. Peptides are a natural thing and should be. And so there are things that you can use. Just be cautious and listen to the people who know what they're doing. Get that support.
Yeah.
That's the main, yeah, always the main point that I try to drive home for people is the support so that you don't make those mistakes on your own.
Yeah, no, I think and I think it's you can hear different people, many different points of view
Yeah,
before you finally kind of go, you know
absolutely.
what, I resonate with this, or
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
it's very confusing that whole world.
It
To say
really
the
is.
least.
Yes, it
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
is. There's
Mhm.
good education out there. I think many times people will, again, they've tried to go to different doctors or providers and different sources, nutritionists, dietitians, whomever, and they've tried to get good information. But what are the certifications and the education behind different people? When you
Yeah.
see, so now you're on social media and you're just scrolling and scrolling. That's part of the problem too. But everybody has an opinion, right? And so who gives you the right information? And again, you're right. Just read, listen, and
Mm.
then go to somebody. If you're there and it doesn't sound right, it probably isn't. Follow
No.
your gut.
Okay.
You can fire a doctor. You
Yeah.
don't have to
Yeah.
stay with
Yeah.
somebody,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, I'm not one for listen to the expert because we've been led
We've been
astray
led astray.
for
Yes,
sure.
we
But
have.
I think it's good to know that medical doctors have at the most, unless they're passionate and they have a journey, 11 hours of nutrition.
I
That's not,
didn't get 11 hours, not even that. Oh my
yeah.
gosh,
So,
not even
so thanks for admitting that, but that's the whole thing. You became interested. You totally know how to do the research,
yeah,
right? And I think we think, oh, because they're a so and so,
yeah.
they will know so and so, and
Oh,
that's actually not true, right? It's
that's
you're
not.
better off finding the people who have actually had personal or that's what their clinic experience is. And there's a lot of people that are getting results. Then it's kind of like maybe there's something to it, you
Maybe
know?
there's something there. And you can shop around. It's
Yeah.
expensive, I guess, so to do that. But even when you have insurance, I still in San Antonio, our clinic takes insurance, which is unusual for an integrative doctor, but
Mhm,
just go and ask questions and listen. And again,
mhm.
rely on
Yeah,
what your heart hears and what your gut tells you. It's
yeah,
right. Listen to
yeah.
yourself. You know what you're um,
Very good. Well, I think unless you have a few, actually, maybe how do people get hold of you?
oh, thank you.
And that maybe we can close with that. And thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Oh, thank you. No, it's an honor, and I appreciate you very much inviting me on. I do have a podcast, and I invite people. I talk about all these issues, about 4 years worth now, which is amazing. So, drpbetterlife.com. Make it easy. When you get there, I've got, blogs and lots of guests and their information and their links, and I feel they're all very reliable, or I wouldn't have them on. But you've got the YouTube and iTunes and Spotify and all that links right when you get there. Please visit that. And I do also have a business now where I'm trying to do the personalized weight loss and also work. It doesn't have to be just weight loss, but personalized work with women going through the menopausal area and some men too. They're not going through menopause, but they look like they might be. But we work with them to. It's called New Bloom, NUBLOOM, and that's mynewbloom.com. And that's just a new project
Mm.
for me. But
Oh,
the podcast is my baby. It's free.
no, great.
It's free.
Yep. No, that's awesome. Well,
Thank you.
thanks very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us at the Healers Cafe. If you haven't already done so, please like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on, as I post a new podcast every Wednesday with tons of useful information and tips for natural healing that you won't want to miss.